This is the Vision with Execution show. My name is Adam Torkelson. I started this podcast January 1st, 2025, and I'm inviting guests on my show who I would consider above average at creating visions and executing them into realities. And my guest today is Tim Stout. Tim, thank you for coming on the show. And I would love it if you would take a couple of minutes and talk about yourself.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Uh, Tim Stout. I am from a small town, big family, small house, poor upbringing in East Tennessee. Uh, I didn't grow up like a normal kid, like most kids, playing basketball, football, baseball. I was always into fighting. I did martial arts at a high level. I did boxing at a high level. I was a high level boxer. Got into grappling and mixed martial arts. I ended up fighting professionally. I fought professionally for about 12 years, which brought me, my journey to Georgia. I'm south of Atlanta in the Noonan, Peachtree City area. I opened the gym here. I taught martial arts. I continued to fight professionally uh, until I retired. And then once I retired, I wanted to get into sales. I was always the executor. I was always the hardest worker in the room. I showed up early. I stayed late. That was just in my DNA, and I wanted to get paid for that effort instead of getting paid what everybody else did, like with most jobs. So I decided to get into real estate because that's the highest ticket item I could sell. It's the highest commission I can sell. So my thought process was the harder I worked, the more money I made. So I started into selling real estate. Within 3 years, I was selling over 100 properties by myself. And then I started a team, scaled a team. I've scaled several businesses since then. I coach, I write books, I still train martial arts. I teach martial arts I train all the local law enforcements and anything I can do to give back. I'm big about giving back with anything with kids, police officers, and animals.
Sweet, man. That sounds like an incredible background. I didn't have a typical background myself. I was homeschooled and traveled around the country because my dad was a circus clown.
Really?
Yeah, you don't meet too many people who can say that.
No, no.
And I love bringing it up because everybody has a different reaction to when I say that. But I love hearing about the way people are raised. And, you didn't really go into it too deeply. And I don't really necessarily need you to. I can tell just from a couple of minutes conversation and looking at you, you're a driven, successful man and looks like you're married as well.
Yep.
Yes, you got that wedding ring on. Does that mean you have kids as well? No
No
kids?
kids. No kids.
Well, congratulations on being married.
Thank you.
I think it's important. I'm a conservative Christian
Same.
and I bring that up on every single podcast I ever do with anyone because it's really why I believe all humans are on this earth is because we've got uh, a connection because we're all children of God. And that's very important for me and my family and my kids. We always talk about it. And I'm incredibly impressed with the fact that you brought up working with families and kids as part of your giving back.
Hmm.
Not everybody does.
Yeah.
And the rising generation of kids, my own kids, I've got an 18-year-old son. He's my oldest. These kids are so important. They're going to be running the world in 20 years or so. And it's our job to raise these kids right.
They're the future.
That's right. And I consider it our God given responsibility as men and husbands to do our job in helping raise them, whether they're our own kids or not. So, again, thank you for helping out with kids and teaching them those skills. It teaches them so much when they're involved in sports and athletics, whether it's football, baseball, fighting. You just have to build some mental resilience in any of that stuff. So I'm actually curious when you are training kids uh, in fighting styles and techniques and whatnot, how much of that is mindset coaching?
It's all mindset. I mean, I would rather have a kid that was full of grit and resilient and had no quit in them. I would take that kid over a kid that was super talented, super athletic, super fast, super strong all day long. Mindset will get you absolutely everywhere in life, and it's the reason I've been able to succeed. I mean, my business sells 300 houses a year, which is a lot. The average agent sells eight. The average producing agent, over 70% of our industry didn't sell one house last year. Uh, Own multiple businesses, so we sell a lot of houses. My gym, I think we have 300 members. I teach a couple of advanced classes in the mornings, and I teach the police. I don't train the kids now, but I used to. But I believe in giving back. We have three protected classes. We have old people, we have animals, and we have the kids. Those are all three people who are they're products of where they're at, their situation. They can't change it.
Yep.
So it's our job to protect them. And with kids, we give back. Like I think last year, my business, we gave 1,000 backpacks to kids who wouldn't have had backpacks or school supplies. We do that. We pay off the school lunch debt every year for the county.
Wow.
We we give to the police. We always give the police. We do animal rescues, and we do a lot of that stuff. But going back into mindset is critical. It's I was when I got into business, I definitely wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the sharpest, but to find someone who is willing to outwork me would be rare. And so in outwork is there's two levels to work. There is the actual action of work, and there's the actual action of improving who I am as a person, as a human, to do that work better. And I dove head first into both of those.
And when you're coaching, let's say executives or leaders, um, and I'm not going to say men or women. It's just the 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 upper level of folks that want to be the best version of themselves. Tell me about um, how you go about starting working with somebody who first comes to you. What's your process?
The people that I coach at a high level, they usually either they want to scale a big team, or the other coaches will refer me because they're hard headed or they don't want. A lot of people want coaching, but they don't want to be coached. I work really well with them because one of the first things that I do is I remove any minimalist behavior. I don't allow you to minimize any behavior. You accept all behavior. It doesn't matter. I can be like, Adam, why didn't you close your leads? And then you're like, well, the leads have a longer nurture system, and I shut out anything that could possibly be an excuse, and I make you fully accept where you're at, what you're doing, and I teach them that it's their complete control. If they succeed, it's on them. If they fail, it's on them. And getting them to that mental turning point is crucial for any type of success, because once you realize that it literally is all you, then it's game over.
I like that. So, two questions I typically ask all my guests. Number one, you could go either way with this. So, what's your vision for 2025? Or the other way you could take it is, how do you help people set visions for themselves? And
Uh,
so let's start there.
my vision for 2025 is I am building an investing side to my business. I have two brokerages, two real estate teams. I have a property management company. I have mortgage companies, title companies. So this year I'm really building out an investment company. So the goal with that one is I want at least 50 off market deals done this year. If that's wholesaling, if that's properties that I buy and hold and I add in my portfolio, or if I flip, that's my 2025 goal. That's where
And
I'm focused on, because the other businesses run well. I dip in every now and then, but they run pretty well.
that's awesome that you've been able to scale those things up and that they're running without you being fully involved day to day. That's what it sounds like you're saying. Is that right?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much, yes.
And that's the dream. But
Absolutely.
I think that's also the reality of anybody who wants to build a successful long-term business. They cannot be involved in the day-to-day grind forever. Otherwise, you you're going to be stuck at the level at which you can perform. So you either get yourself to perform at a much higher level, or you bring in other people who can take over a lot of that stuff. And then you keep going and building the next thing. And it sounds like that's the phase you're in, is you've set up some of these systems and these businesses that are running themselves, and then you're gone on to the next vision for yourself. And I love that you're using all your skills and your talents within the real estate to now do investing. So, and that's smart. It's incredibly smart.
I think anything with growth is who, not how. And I think any leaders, the job, their main goal is to hire people that are smarter than them.
Yep.
And I think a lot of leaders' shortcoming is the fact they don't want to hire someone smarter than them. They don't want to be outshined. They don't want to be outdone. They don't want to be questioned. And that's something that the result was the only thing that I ever worried about. And it wasn't how we got there. It was just like I needed to get there. And if you're smarter, like you're on board, let's do that. And that was a big with me is I never had an ego when it come to that. I knew good and well I wasn't the smartest guy, and if I was, I wouldn't have made it near as far as I am now.
Did you ever read that book, Who Not How?
I probably read 500 books, self development books. Yeah,
Yeah, there's one that's literally titled Who Not How.
very good.
And I read that one just last year, and I couldn't agree more with that principle. And it's not complicated. I love how simple the concept is. And if that is your actual real goal, is the result and not the how, then it's game over, like you said.
Agreed. I agree.
So tell me about how you're going to execute that vision into reality this year.
My strengths is one thing that's helped me with my business period is I understand my strengths. Of the most, I think the two most important things of any leader is you understand your strengths and you understand your weaknesses. Most leaders can't tell you their weaknesses because one, they don't focus on it, or they're not willing to admit their weaknesses. My strengths are coaching and like sales coaching. Like that's what I do really well, and I run operations really well. I don't do well in the day to day. The monotonous, like really grinds me. Like it really brings me down. So as of right now, I mean, the business is 4 months old, but I have two acquisition specialists and administration specialists working in that business, and we're moving. I mean, we're on task to hit our 50 properties, and which is good for that level. I'm still in the disposition part of it, and it's because I have the relationships with the buyers. So their job is to I create the lead system, I create the follow up, the cadence, the talk tracks, the objections, all that stuff. I handle all of that. I teach them, train them. They get the property owners who want to sell at a discount because time is their importance, not exactly most money. And my job is to find an investor who sees the value in it, and then I sell it to them.
Interesting. I am an investor myself. I'm an accredited investor,
Nice.
and I've invested in two separate real estate funds.
REITs,
And uh, I guess I'm not an expert on the
syndications.
lingo, but I
Okay.
think they're more like a syndication.
Okay.
I'm a LP in both of them.
Yeah. Limited partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of them is performing exactly as the prospectus told me it would, 10% annually with a
Which
three
is
to
good
five
right
year
now.
exit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very good. And then the other one is not performing at all. I'm getting zero distributions and haven't for over a year. And I've got two or three investments that are kind of like that, and they're all over the board. One of them was an RV park,
Yeah.
and then real estate fund, and then one of them I actually bought ownership in just a fourplex in Bullhead, Arizona,
Okay.
and that went nowhere.
Yeah.
So I've got enough experience in failing at real estate to know kind of where my strengths and weaknesses are within that. But I love looking at investment opportunities all the time. And that's the important thing for me, is that I'm looking at opportunities as often as possible. And
I
that
think
seems to
that's
be how I
smart.
make success in it.
What I do is I educate because a lot of people, they want to fix and flip properties, and I'm not saying you shouldn't fix and flip properties, but I think that should be definitely the minimum, because your real money made in real estate is holding it, holding the value. So I spend a lot of education, like on my social media. I've got a big social media presence. I've got like over 400,000 on Facebook. I've got a couple Instagrams, one of them with like 160. So I've got a big social media following, and I focus a lot on investing, the idea of investing and buy and hold real estate because of the value and the wealth that you can create. And so my job with every investment I bring is like if I bring Adam a property, my job is to get that property at least a 20% discount, because when you refinance it, I want you to be able to get all your money back. Because my goal is not for you to get a 10 to 12% ROI. My goal is for you to get an infinite ROI because you got all your money back out.
Yeah.
And it allows me, because I do the education also, people see the value in it. A lot of times people are like, well, I need it deeper, I need this. And I'm like, you need to quit worrying about flipping it, because the money that you think you're going to make, you're going to pay in taxes. When you hold the property, you don't pay taxes. So I really push a lot of education that way. So it's good. I mean, as many times as you're talking about failing, there's no greater lesson than failing. That's a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. My best failure was when I bought a brick and mortar hair salon about a mile from my house. And I know nothing about doing hair. I used to go there to get my own hair done because I'm a little bit vain about my hair, I'll be honest. And so I went to a woman-owned beauty parlor to do my hair, and the owner wanted to sell. She told me about it as she was doing my hair, and it was my very first potential investment opportunity. It's almost 10 years ago now. And so I was like, yeah, I got enough money to buy something like this. I think I'll do it. My wife 100% told me I shouldn't. And I didn't listen to her. So I bought it, and it came with a host of problems that I didn't foresee, but somebody who'd p- purchased businesses before definitely would have seen them. So I bought it for 5 figures and sold it for $1 8 months later. And I consider that my MBA in business acquisition.
And you said your best failure. Like what type of mindset you have to understand that? That's a definitely a 0.11% to understand, to be able to say the words my best failure.
I
You know what I
think
mean?
it's a funny story, honestly. That's how I look
Absolutely.
at it. It was just this funny, at the time, I felt like a complete idiot. And I was also I was at the height of my addiction. So I'm a recovering addict.
Okay.
And if you combine addiction with a lot of money and not a lot of accountability, you just run into issues, just
Mhm.
without a doubt. So I was learning all kinds of failures during that time of my life.
My wife used to own and run hair salons, so I understand the issues that you're dealing with, because you're dealing with the most emotional humans on earth,
Amen.
hairdressers. And if me and you, we don't think emotionally, we think tactically.
Hmm.
So therefore we don't connect, we don't relate. So therefore we can't solve that problem. It makes it difficult. I understand you on 100%. We went through the same thing. So when you said hair salon, I'm like, oh man, Lord bless you. That's a rough one.
Yep, it sure was. Um, I could talk. I actually love talking about the things I've failed at, and it's actually on the flip side, some of the things I've been successful at are a little harder to talk about. But I think my best success is that I've been married for 20 years to the same woman,
That's
and
a
I find
success.
that incredibly fulfilling, and I feel like that's my biggest success in life. My second is my 2 kids. They're both healthy. They're both going in the right direction. My son is getting ready to serve a 2-year mission for our church, and we're Mormons,
Yeah.
so that's what we do when we graduate high school. We go on a 2-year mission. The guys do.
Where's he going?
We don't know yet. He'll know in about 3 weeks, actually.
Okay. Will it be in country or out of country?
We don't know, but he's been speaking German in high school for the last 5 years. So I suspect he'll go somewhere German speaking, but you never know. He could go Chinese speaking. They
Yeah.
have to learn the language when they show up to the country. That's how it works.
Wow.
It's difficult.
I've got a lot of Mormon friends, and two things I know about Mormons, and I don't know a lot about them, but when I go into a house, like to sell their house, when I see a Mormon's house, two questions hit my head. It's like, is this a Mormon or is this a prepper? Like, because of all the food storage. And I'm like, okay. And it's some of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. Like, I'm talking just giving, like, just with no remorse, nothing. Just, it's just how they do. Super, super nice people.
Well, I'm glad that's been your experience. And
Absolutely.
that definitely is. I mean, we're not different than any other Christian religion in that we believe Jesus Christ is our savior and he's our example.
Mhm.
And so that's the culture is let's all be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
And we
Christian.
talk about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that the those you have met have kind of been that example. And
Yeah. They have.
that's good.
Yeah.
We're not all like that. And all religions are the same way. You can't judge any religion by one bad apple.
Or one good one. It's like
Yeah,
it's the median. That's what it's life.
that's right.
Yeah.
So Tim, if there's one or two more principles that you really love to bring up, no matter who you're talking to, like general mindset principles, like who not how, for instance, that sounds like one you've thought about extensively.
Yeah.
Is there any others that you want to talk about for just a couple more minutes? We only have like 5 more minutes to go.
I'm big on extreme ownership. Like that's a great book, but I'm also good in the belief system. I think as long as you can create a belief that it's someone else's fault or something's fault, anybody's fault but your own, I think you're creating a pathway to failure is because you're always going to have a scapegoat. Like the whole burn the boat mentality. Like if you don't have that, like if success is your only option, that's the only way you're truly going to find it at a
Mm.
high level. And I'm a big extreme accountability. Like people know that you don't come to me with, you don't ask me questions you don't want to know the answers to. That's one. And two, it's like when you come to me, don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution. And that way I get to train a problem solving, uh, people around me. Everybody's thinking about the solution. They're not thinking about the problem.
And extreme ownership, that's Jocko Willink. Is that the
Yep.
book?
Yep.
Okay.
Great
And
book. Great book.
you know, it it is incredible that you just offhandedly mentioned that you've read several hundred books on self-development.
500.
Yeah,
Yeah. Lots.
that by itself says a whole lot about you, I believe.
Mhm.
In homeschool, that's basically all we did to get education was to just
Yeah.
read a ton of books. And reading is required in our household. We've got a separate room with just books. It's a library. And our kids both grew up reading, and it plays a part in how intelligent you can be in whatever you do and how quickly you can pick up new skills. Reading, it affects both of those things.
I quit high school in 10th grade. And so I didn't have a proper education, didn't go to college. And when I fought professionally for over a decade. So between the fact of not having an education and being a professional fighter, one of my biggest fears once I got into business is someone think I was ignorant,
Mm.
because those are two things that would, I mean, someone who's willing to get hit in the head thousands of times, not that smart. He quits high school, not that smart. And that was one of my biggest fears. And that was when I went into the self-development rabbit hole of like just crushing books and listening and reading and courses and coaches. I've always had coaches. I've always took the courses, went to the things they do when you go travel and you do these 3 day course, all that stuff. And it's just because I was so scared of being the someone to think I was ignorant or less than.
It's interesting. And that fear was a huge motivator for you, it sounds like.
Huge, huge.
Yeah. And my own fears have motivated me quite a bit. And I say that because I don't think fear is the best motivator, but it is a very good one. If you need something to motivate you, fear will every time.
Agreed.
And ultimately, I think the best motivation is love. So that's where I'm trying to work towards, is having love as my main motivation.
Yeah, I like that.
So Tim, this has been an awesome episode. It went by really fast. I try and keep them to 30 minutes. I know it's kind of short, but I really appreciate your time, and I'll share this out and put a link to your site and your socials in the description and everything so people can find you. If there's
Absolutely.
one thing that you really want to talk about for a second, is it a website? Is it a book you're writing? Is it a course? What is like your main product right now?
We just put out a book, and it's actually #1 on Amazon right now, and it's Forged in Fire. It's 50 fight to win tactics. It's short stories, 50 lessons I took from either being a professional fighter or growing up really poor, and how I've implemented those life lessons into my business and been able to scale multiple seven-figure businesses.
Sweet. That sounds
Yeah,
like a great thing. I'll put a link to that in the description.
thank you, thank you.
And I appreciate your time so much, Tim.
Absolutely, I appreciate you, Adam. Thanks for being your guest.
Yeah, this has been an episode of the Vision with Execution show. My name is Adam Torkelson. My guest, Tim Stout, is a stud, a coach, multiple seven-figure business owner, and awesome. Everybody have an awesome day.